Okay, and now we are live. Yes, and it's interesting to be back here. Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you may be. Welcome to season 2 of the Writing Jingcast. Yeah, and I am Jing, a freelance writer online and virtual assistant to clients online in need of researchers for their website. So, to new viewers, welcome and all. To everyone familiar with Season 1, welcome back to the Writing Gencast. It's been more than a year since Season 1 aired, and we are back. Better than ever, thanks to the expertise provided by Wakalas Productions, a company to look out for the upcoming years. Probably as early as this month, you'd be looking forward to them since they have a lot of programs in store for you. So, with the new season comes a new format interviewing people from the freelancing space, working online. Some of them may be earning online long before everybody else got locked down. And others have been working online long before I did. Yes, because I've been writing content for other websites and other podcasts since 2013. So, and that would be, since I mentioned podcasts, one of the most interesting gigs I ever had involved our guest for today. So, yeah, let's see the viewers we have here. Yeah, hello. Everyone that's watching at this moment, I'd highly appreciate that you would. Um, okay, let's see. Mm, I'd, I'd, I'd I'm really thankful to Wakalas Productions for the opportunity to get this second season of my podcast airing online, since they've been very instrumental in helping me learn the other aspects of broadcasting, live streaming. All you have to do is to get in touch with them, tell them what concerns do you have, if you would like to launch a PR campaign for your product or service. In my case, this is tied up to my PR campaign to my website, my Facebook page, and my services, since it always helps to upgrade your skills online, whether you're selling your products, whether you're doing online selling or you're providing services, virtual assistant services for other people, clients, mostly online. Some of these informations would be provided later on here in our program. You'd highly appreciate them. And if you're watching right now, I would highly appreciate as well that you would have some shout outs. Our shout outs would be conducted in between, or you have some questions for our guest today. That would also be great. And it's 9:10 a.m. here in the Philippines. So if you're watching anywhere in the world, for example, Eastern Standard Time, that would be 9 p.m. And that's a clue to who our guest is for today. So, of course, shout outs to the wonderful team of Wakalas Productions, the my trainer G&D. They also have their own YouTube channel here, and one of the earliest live streamers under this banner, under the banner of Wakalas Productions. Um, it stands for Jerome and David. Yes, Jerome. Hello, Jerome. And then the technical team also. Yeah, so they have a website, wakalasproductions.com. You can simply visit them there. So, and since on my end, I provided, in other words, some of the format that the rest of the format that I have done here for the script, I wrote them, which also means that I also write ad scripts for other people. You you'd learn about them later on in this program. So, since writing involved research, providing research material for today's guest helped in contributing quality content for his podcast, primarily season 4. and some episodes of season 5. He also had me as one of the panelists on some episodes, especially whenever I have some links to plug. Perhaps that's when I realized that I should revive my own podcast. So, his name is Joe Dini, one of the nicest guys I've ever met online. His podcast, Legends of the Internet, attracted an audience interested in individuals and events that help shape our understanding of the interwebs. If you watch until the end of this live stream, you will be rewarded with valuable lessons based on our episode for today. A free ebook. Details to be provided right before we end on this episode. So, for now, we would have a few words from our friends, and Writing Jingcast will be right back. So, what is online freelancing and how can you benefit from this? First, let's highlight who your clients will be once you start off. This is Linda. She has a store and she has an online store. It can either be Shopee or Lazada or Etsy if your clients will be based from the US. And for the most part, they have a Facebook version of their online store. So for most beginners, that would be your entry point. Usually, doon naman kayo mag-start since andun na kayo sa Facebook, makausap na kayo. So all that's left to next is know how to market from there. Kasi bakit kakailanganin ng virtual assistant ni Linda? Kasi nakaka-overwhelm. Ang daming Facebook friend requests. Kasi yung iba yung online store nila, hindi pa nila na-translate or hindi pa na-transfer dun sa Facebook page nila. So, it's like a basic aspect of friend request, messenger, and then notifications. So, yeah, it can be overwhelming. And most of the time, they would rather have someone else do the Facebook management for them. So, what happens? You become the virtual assistant that would be handling the Facebook friend requests, messages, and notifications. Because most of the time your client, Linda, for example, would be too busy to be paying attention to that because there are a lot of business people rather, online that would rather focus their energies on product development or defining a strategy or competitor research. Yes, that is if they have not delegated that part yet. If they're just about to develop some aspects of the business, they would rather delegate Facebook management or social media marketing, social media management to the virtual assistant. That's where you come in. So, clients are usually online business owners like Linda. They want to focus on important parts of the business. Yes, they would rather focus on the important parts of the business, and they have to hire freelancers to help in other areas. You get hired first before you get fired. So, in the case, the common needs for anyone starting out or anyone who's already experienced but would go ahead and delegate the social media aspects of their business, it would be replying to chats or messages. They would need someone to manage the orders on their online stores. Sometimes the online stores themselves need managing as well. And then they would need someone to create logos or graphics for the website, for the Facebook, for some of the marketing materials to be used in the page. And then they would be needing someone to write the social media posts or the blog posts. If they have a website, they have a blog. Um, yeah, this is usually my forte. I'm the one usually handling the articles for them. And then they would need someone to reply to emails, someone to at least handle the email part or the email aspect of the customer service necessities of the business. And then they would need someone to post on Facebook, preferably the Facebook business page. And then they would need someone to create the office documents, sometimes um, posts or drafts of their social media posts or blog posts. Um, the more advanced ones would need the office documents because Excel or Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets are their common tools used when trying to um, document the bookkeeping part of the business, and so on, because the possibilities are endless. You'd be surprised at how much opportunity awaits for you, and you'd be realizing how this would help you a lot in getting things done here. Possibilities, and since we're online, we can reach clients from all over the globe. Like, of course, the usual clientele be coming from the United States, but anyone to whom that you can speak English with, you can uh, hire them, or you can be hired as a virtual assistant. So possibilities are endless for you. So for other details that would definitely help you decide on becoming a virtual assistant and earn income online, all you have to do is to click that link on the description box. It would provide more info on what else do you need to learn, what other aspects of the freelancing world do you need to know before you finally decide to dip your big toe in the big pond of freelancing online, and make sure that the moment that you decide on it, you have put your heart into it and you're doing it because you need some extra income to offset the days when you cannot have other sources of income, any other reason. Because the moment you realize why are you doing this, then becoming a virtual assistant will be normal to you, will be natural to you. Thank you, and back to our show. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Yes, welcome back to our show. And yeah, it really helped a lot that some information about opportunities online for being a virtual assistant, to being a writer, to being a researcher. Although the presentation a while ago was more about being the virtual assistant, or the generic kind of a virtual assistant. There's a lot to be discussed, and another niche, another aspect that would be worth discussing when it comes to becoming a virtual assistant is becoming a researcher. Highly recommended if you wanted to be a non-voice virtual assistant, as they call it. So right now we are here, and since we already introduced our guest and just some ideas about who he is, so let's roll it. He had been my mentor. Yeah, I can call it that. He's my mentor when it comes to um, my exposure to podcasting or live streaming here on YouTube. So um, yeah, and then here we get to no, let's see, just some. Hmm. Oh, okay. So yeah, so let's go straight into it. Yeah. Now here we go. Here we go. Now. Oh, thank you. Shout outs to Michi Malabon and oh, hello, GND. Finally, he's awake. Okay, so let's go straight to our guest and ladies and gentlemen, presenting uh the legend himself. Yes, he is a legend himself, Joe Dini.
Hi. How you doing, Jing? What's going on?
Yes, finally we get to talk after a
Yeah.
lot of preparation going on. Yeah. So how does it feel? You
Oh,
know, guest.
to feel, I mean, to be on the other side of it, I mean, there's an old Phoenix Wright adage where you're just like, oh, it feels different being on this side of the aisle than
Yeah,
being
it
on the actual
does.
hosting.
Yeah, it does, and it really helps a lot that we finally get to switch sides because
Mm.
um, just the other week I was one of your panelists or for your voice for your well, we would mention that later. So let's get it on with the first question, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, how did Legends of the Internet start as a podcast? About how about some insights?
Oh, okay. Going back, going just a little bit before we actually went into it, we've been trying to think of, my friends and I, we've been trying to think of a podcast now for 3 years before Legends was even considered a thing. Back in 2013, this was back when Google Hangout was just starting to become a streaming service for people to actually stream through YouTube. I mean, we're using StreamYard Yow, but back then, Google Plus was all about, okay, we're going to do Hangouts, so we're going to have live stuff. And it was an easier way for people to do podcasts. Back then, you had to have an RSS feed. You needed to have all this knowledge on how to get your podcast onto these websites. People were not podcasting on YouTube unless they knew the specifics going back to the early days, like in the early 2000s. So when that came along, my friends and I were thinking about ways that we could start our own podcast. When that happened, we went through many different ideas, movies. We even did one episode where we talked about a certain individual, which I will get to later in the story. But that individual we talked about for about 20 minutes. And that was sort of the origin of how this idea came forward. But I didn't really think about it until much later on when the internet was starting to get this idea of like, okay, maybe we should talk about people on the internet more. Maybe there needs to be like a history of how these people became big or successful or failures. However you want to put it, like there's always a legend to tell. The internet was just starting to become a thing and it needed to be documented. But there was already people that were already doing documentations. You had Down the Rabbit Hole. You had
Uh-huh.
what was it? You had it came from the internet, which isn't even around anymore. You still
Yeah.
have Down the Rabbit Hole, but after a while, I stopped watching because there wasn't a lot of money stuff that I was interested in.
Uh-huh.
But that happens to pretty much everybody. But this was around 2015. 2016 rolls around, and that is when we sat down in a restaurant one day or a local eatery. And it was just a normal hangout with my friends and I. And we got to the end where it was dessert time. And we just ended up talking about Christine Weston Chandler, who is one of the biggest internet, I should say, internet. I don't even know what you would call it, like the face of the internet, almost you could say, if you wanted to like take it like a boil it
Yeah.
down about like, okay, who would if you're going to talk about somebody that famous on the internet, who would you say?
Hmm.
Definitely Christian.
Yeah.
So I have a friend that didn't know anything about Christian, none whatsoever. So we ended up telling the story for about an hour and a half in the restaurant to my friend, and it got to a point where the story was so interesting that people from around us, that the tables we were sitting at, it was a very closed restaurant. We ended up gathering attention from other tables. They were listening into the story, regardless of how disturbing it was. I mean, it is a disturbing story. It's hilarious, but at the same time, it's also sad, and it also can get people angry. So there's like emotions from all different kinds. You had people from different tables. You had waiters listening in every once in a while. You would have like the pizza guy that would just try to listen in every once in a while. And it was just hitting me at that point. Like, we should make this should be the podcast idea. It should be the four of us sitting down on Google Hangout on a night on a weekend when we're all not working, and let's just go ahead and do it. So we came up with a few ideas for names. So, I mean, the name is very important. We originally came up with the Idiots of YouTube. That was going to be the original name of the show. And I said, that's not going to sell. I mean, obviously, you're going to have people that are probably going to get offended by that, especially if you're going to be talking about distinctive people on YouTube. And you're only limiting to only just YouTube. The internet is vast and wide. It's more than just one website, and there's always things that you can talk about for many of the corner regions of the entire World Wide Web. So
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Legends of the Hidden Temple, which was a Nickelodeon game show from the mid '90s, and it was very popular down here back then. It got its own movie. That's how popular it got. So I said, well, why don't we just call it Legends of the Internet? And they were like, "Yep, that's the perfect name. Let's go with that." So the 2 days before Halloween, which is our anniversary, is October 29th, 2016. So the show's been around roughly for about 4 years. And the artwork you're seeing right now is done by one of the other panelists that used to be on the show. He made that banner for me after we did a few episodes. And that's actually was the updated one, but that is the um, banner that I use for the channel art that you would see when you come into my channel, and I also use it for any other backgrounds for the shows. But so about we sat down for about 3 hours and we recorded that first show, and I remember all of us were nervous. We did not think about what was going to happen after that. We didn't know how big it was going to get. I mean, first of all, we just thought, okay, we'll just do this here and there. We don't know how many subscribers we're going to get. And then it just took off on its own. I mean, we got 1,000 subscribers in 6 months. And this was back in 2016 when the algorithm was extremely different than it is now. The algorithm has so much changed since then, but we were getting it took me 11 months to get 2,000. I mean, the amount of time it took my friend, it took him about 4 years to get 1,000 subscribers. And for us, it only took 6 months. So it was just the material that we were talking about. First of all, we made it entertaining. So it was like laughable. We were having fun with it. And just telling the story was what was intriguing. It was about the specific individual or individuals or company. And then we would go ahead and just try to either make it funny or try to make it as emotional as possible. And that's what really worked for us. And yeah, that is the origin of how we came up with it. And still proud of the how we started it.
Yeah, and I'm proud to be part of your podcast as well. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's so I think we can move on to the next question here,
Mm-hmm.
where, well, we can be honest here. What are your least liked episodes?
Least liked.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are several ones that I did where it was kind of spur of the moment when I had certain panelists on. They would text me about 30 minutes before the show started,
Mm.
and they would say, "Oh, hey, I'm watching the Marvel movie, or I'm doing this right now," and they would only give me like a half hour notice. So there would be times it would just be like me and one person, and it's like, okay, now I got to think on the fly because now I gotta only cater now to one person on the panel instead of like I like having about 3 to 4 people on the panel at one time. So when it gets down to that, number one, I mean, we did an episode called Barats and Beretta, which was also an episode that um, featured two people that have been very popular back when YouTube way started in the beginning, and they were one of the first original celebrities, but nobody had really heard of them. So I had to really try to sell it to the one guy that was super exhausted and tired, and came onto the show like about ready to go to sleep. And we did that for about, I want to say, an hour and a half. So that one I left feeling, oh man, that was kind of rough to do. And there was another one that we did, which was Chris Crocker, which I think that we could have probably done a lot more if there was if we had the capability of doing audio with share screen, which you could do on this platform right now. You can share screen with audio, but back then you couldn't with Google Hangout. So we couldn't actually watch the videos. And I thought it was important if we got to have people see the video and see like how crazy it was back then and how Chris Crocker ended up becoming popular. So because of that, I kind of felt that it wasn't as fun to show because there's only so much you could say with your voice without having to actually show it. And now that we have this capability for later in the future, we could do episodes where I can actually show video and I don't have to say anything. I'll just let the video speak for itself. And of course, you can do this under fair use because you're actually doing commentary about that certain individual. I think there was one other one that we did. Well, there's a couple of ones that they were more of just auditions. So there were some that I deleted because they were auditions, but I put them up there because I really wanted to see it. The auditions, I mean, they were kind of a mess, just trying to see like who would be good to be a panelist. And so I would say the ones that we did for audition purposes, those were not enjoyable because, you're just trying to at the same time you're trying to talk about somebody, and then at the same time you're also trying to see okay, who fits in this, who's going to be too outlandish, who's going to be too controversial. You don't want anybody on there who's just doing this just because they like me, who's just doing this as a joke. You need to really get down to the nitty gritty and see like who's going to be who. I mean, I do probably auditions every season, so one of those. Yes, and I did a yeah, and then some of the ones we didn't do live when we ended up doing recordings because of a certain situations. But now that we're going live again, I mean the opportunities are wide open now for doing some of these things, and I got some ideas now. But just have to be careful now with what we do in the future.
Oh yes, we have to be very careful with that since it's the algorithm, and then there's the new terms and conditions. So yeah, it helped that. Oh, good, you have a new subscriber. It's Dudes. Hello,
Great.
Dudes. Yeah, shout out to Dudes who subscribe to Legends of the Internet podcast. Yeah, you can catch on those replays that are still uploaded there. You'd enjoy them immensely. So yeah, and well, the next question, of course, that would be right after the break, because right after the break, we would be discussing your favorite episodes and other questions as well. So, with that, yes, we would give Joe Dini time to compose himself in order to answer his favorite questions. So, while while we're preparing for that, we have a few words from, well, we would have a commercial break, and we would be right back after um, some ads or this ad. Thank you. We are back with the legend himself, Joe Dini.
Hi
Yes,
again.
yes. So it's time for you to answer the one of the most sought of questions here. What are your favorite episodes?
Oh, okay. These are the funny ones, the ones that definitely had a good story to them. So the Christian one definitely was a little bit nerve wracking, but my friends and I had a really lot of fun with that one. And that one, we have about six figures in terms of views. So that one was really popular. The ones that we did on Christian are really fun, especially
Mm,
considering that you have the live reactions of people that wouldn't normally expect because they have no idea about certain things that she has done in the past. So when they find out about
mm,
this stuff, the live reactions from your friends are the most. That's what makes the show, is the people that just have no idea about the particular individual. The
mm.
other one that we found fun was Tommy Was So Volume 2. That was when we talked about the behind the scenes of a cult classic movie called The Room, which ended up becoming a book called The Disaster Artist that was written by Greg Sestero, who was one of the main characters in the movie. He played the Mark character. And if you see on the picture, Tommy Wiseau is right behind the red moon, right next to Christian.
Mm.
So with that one, what really made the show was I did the voice of Tommy, and I would talk like this because this is my Tommy with soul accent. So when I played as Tommy, when I did like live role playing for my friends who didn't know anything about the story, I played Tommy to a T, to a sense, for my friends, where they're just like, okay, I could see Tommy saying these things as he's directing people acting, because the entire behind the scenes of the making of the room was such a mess that the story itself is very fascinating to read. If you have not read The Disaster Artist, either go on Audible or go on Amazon and try to see if you can get it on what is it called? God, it's not Audible. It's Kindle. If you get it
Kindle,
on Kindle, then
Kindle. Yeah.
you can read it on your phone. You can read it on your iPad. Or if you're like hardcovers, then hardcovers are great.
Mm.
So that one was fun. We also did one on the Nostalgia Critic, and the part when we got to his GoFundMe page, we ended up going over all of his rewards for people. He would say, for $10 you can get a thank your name will be on the end of a thank you page at the end of one of our videos. For $500 you can talk to us for about 30 minutes for $500 on Skype. If you paid about $1,500, I'm just trying. I don't remember the numbers, but you can end up going to see his studio. You get a tour of his studio in Chicago, but you have to pay for your own hotel. You have to pay for your own air travel. So, Jing, you're in the Philippines, so not
Yeah.
only would you have to, so you'd be traveling so far just to go to America, just to see a tour that would probably take about 30 minutes. So then you're on your own after that. So I don't know if you
That's
would
it.
like to. You would probably want to
No.
see America for a little bit, and then just like, oh, I'm going back to the Philippines.
Okay,
But
so I can't even afford $1,400. Not yet.
yeah, so you're paying 1,500, and I don't know what the airfare is from Southeast Asia all the way to America. I
Mm,
don't
mm,
know.
mm.
Plus,
Oh yes.
I don't know if you know like the exchange rate between American dollars, and I don't know what your currency is. My apologies, but
It's 1 to 50. It's so far. Last time I checked, it's $1 is 50 Philippine pesos so far.
okay. So yeah, it's a lot of pesos. Just to give you a heads up, it's a
Yeah.
lot. So
Mm-mm.
it wouldn't be good for somebody like you, Jing. But for people in the United States, it was. I mean, only one person claimed that. So just hearing that story and hearing the reactions from fans certainly did it. We also covered not the nostalgia credit, but we covered Channel Awesome's entire document on everybody that actually used to work for Channel
Yeah.
Awesome, and hearing all the stories about how they were abused, some of them. Some people, you would hear backstage talk about certain things that would be going on during their behind the scenes of shoots for films that they were doing. There was a story about Jew Wario, who we've covered previously on the show. But then there's
Mm-mm.
stuff, and then because anybody that knew happened to Jew Wario, he committed suicide in the bathroom while his wife's standing outside the door.
Mm.
So, and
It's
then
very
it was late,
sad.
and then stuff came out later which revealed that he did some sexual activity behind the scenes. So that episode was really good because we went over every single detail, and not many people had read the document at that time. So there were people pouring in and out. There were different what was it? There were different panelists coming in and out of the show, and I sat there for 4 hours reading the entire thing. So that one, I lost my voice after that. I definitely will not recommend anybody do something for more than 4 hours. And Jing knows this because she was on
Yeah.
the my. She will know this because she was on my Immortal um, stream. She came in at the very last hour. It was like I had three other panelists that couldn't
Yeah,
make
I
it
had
through
to
that entire
support you
story.
because I noticed it was emotionally taxing for you. So of course I had to support you.
Yes, that one was another favorite. Those of you that don't know what My Immortal is, it's a Harry Potter fan fiction that was circulated on the internet back in the mid 2000s that got extremely popular in the teenager emo community. It was a lot of goths, it was a lot of emo people that are or self identified as emos and goths. And it was like a goth Harry Potter thing. And
Mm.
at that time, I had three panelists with me. They went through the first 2 hours. Jing and another person named Marcus came on after that. Marcus only lasted for about an hour, but Jing stayed with me on for the rest of the show, and I did that for 4 hours. And by the time I was done, I had lost my voice then too. So
Yeah,
it was tough. Anything
it's
that
one of your longest streams
yes,
actually.
yeah, and the other one I did anything that involves like reading like very cult stories, called video games. I'm going to be doing one in the future on the Dark Seed games. I don't know if anybody what those are, but those were based off of two video games that came out in the mid 90s where the artwork was inspired by H.R. Giger, who did the artwork for the Alien movies.
Oh,
So, and there's also a documentary on Netflix about H.R. Giger's work, and he was very influential with a lot of different art pieces. He was very sci-fi with this stuff. So I wanted to go over those games because those are some cult classics. And so anything that involved telling a really good story like Psycho Dad, anything that had to do with a lot of laughs, like when we read the Sonic 2 comics, not verbatim, but we actually read like the synopsis of it. And getting people's reactions off of it is what really makes the show. So we're going to go back to going into those type of things. In fact, just last week, Jing and I went over like one part of Doki Doki Literature Club, which is an internet game. Well, yeah, it's a game on Steam that caught wind about 3 years ago. And we did that, and we haven't even gotten through some of the more known parts of the game, but that's what tomorrow's actually going to be about. We're going to be doing a part two of that where I play the game and we actually
mhm.
do like a live reading of it as well. So those are the fun ones. Those are the fun ones.
Yeah, I had fun. I had fun with that. Um, of course, it helped. You did not see the spoilers to those those items. But yeah, on my end, I had to keep my mouth shut. Yeah, because anyway. Okay. So yeah, you're really a fan of a channel. Awesome, and I appreciate that. So in effect, on the other episodes that you've done so far, which episodes you think needed improvement?
Well, I mean, we've talked about this in the past. I remember when we did the two parts of the Onision episodes. A lot of people said that Onision was something that you probably could have covered a whole lot more because there was so much information that we didn't cover. So that's something that we're contemplating as of this moment. Although some of the panelists that are currently on the show now are kind of like, some of he's just getting really, he's just. It's kind of like it's kind of mixed feelings right now with that. So we're kind of being very picky about who we kind of do. So if we ever were to do Onision again, we would definitely revisit him. Definitely did need to go and improve that. Some of the ones that were, like I said, some of the ones that I really didn't like, especially I know people didn't really like the episode I did on the Amazing Atheist because they just really just didn't like the idea that we we read. I mean, we had some pretty good sources on things that he said in the past, but it's just like people just didn't like the fact that we were going into that. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was important. I mean, because I even backed this up in the past. I said, look, he said and did some things that is not acceptable in today's day and age. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that. But there were a lot of amazing atheist fans that came on that comment section, and they just were just like, no, and of course, there was also it also had to do with atheism, which is kind of it's a very controversial topic to talk about anyway. So you got religious people on the other side of that. So I mean, if there was going to be any improvements of that, then definitely the Amazing Atheist episode. There's one. I'm trying to think if there was another one. Definitely some of the ones that I did for season 6, because that was right near the tail end of when my Wi-Fi was getting bad, and a lot of the stream was going in and out. Like people couldn't actually see the stream because we weren't using Streamlab at the time. And then what happened was I was playing a video game while I was doing the podcast, and a lot of times, like the Wi-Fi would be bad. And once the Wi-Fi is bad, you can't see anything. And then you would have people in the comments saying, "Oh, I can't see it. I can't hear you guys." And that would probably take about 5 minutes to do, and that just disrupts the entire thing, man. So and that's why I actually found this, because I wanted to find something that would actually be beneficial to the show without having to do something with my bad Wi-Fi when it came to doing live streaming games. So this is a better alternative. And if I had to go back and redo those episodes, I would. Maybe some of the ones that or needed improvement. Probably some that we did on recordings, because a lot of times the audio didn't. Sometimes the audio didn't blend in the way I wanted to. So I mean, live is so much better. So learn for the future. Anyone that needed improvement was the recorded episodes and the ones I mentioned.
Hmm. Yeah. I have to agree, since doing the episodes live really helped the difference. Although when it comes to sound, you have to make sure first that you have stable internet, you have a stable headset, and then later on you need a better sound system, and better what else? Webcam. There you go. Sometimes because when it comes to live stream, you're not just talking, people see you, either you or your logo, and then they become associated with you. So it
Mm-hmm.
really helps a lot in getting things forward on live. Mm, that'd be that's an interesting insight there. So yeah, since although you've already mentioned this before, I'd still mention this. This would be the part where you can explain at length what are the episodes that you think deserved sequels.
Sequels. Well, people have been definitely been asking for more Christian. Even after Volume 3, I said I wouldn't do another one. Um, so I mean, people. I mean, I even went into why I wouldn't want to do it again. That
Mm,
was in my Volume 3. Yeah, because at the very end, I said like I don't really want to go over it again, but at the
mm,
same time, people are really. I mean, even some of the old panelists on the show were like, "Yeah, can we please do a Volume 4?" So that's up in the air because people have been demanding it, but I've kind of been on the back burner on that. Anything that deserved a sequel probably would be Homestar Runner. That was one of my that was something that I wish I could have actually shown more video clips for. So I really want to actually go over like the entire history of Homestar, since Homestar is not as wildly popular as it once is now, because once Flash died, once people stop using Flash, and even by the way, Google Chrome is not going to be allowing Flash to be used anymore. So a lot of Newgrounds games are going to die. A lot of Flash cartoons are going to die. So before that happens, I want to make sure that Homestar, and by the way, you can see Strong Bad in the background here. Um,
yeah, they're one of
Homestar,
them.
yes, the second to the left. So Strong Bad, I definitely want to do, or Homestar Runner, I should say, I definitely want to do like a comprehensive history of like all of the stuff that made it popular. I definitely watch some cartoons, some of the stuff, some of the cartoons, some of the characters. I mean, I do some pretty good voices from the Homestar thing, but I won't do it here. So that one deserves a sequel. I wanted to do actually a spin-off, not a sequel, but a spin-off to a character that was featured in Psycho Dad called Uncle Larry. Uncle Larry has his own YouTube channel, but they sort of been doing like their own storytelling, and that one is hilarious. I mean, it was almost like watching a sitcom of sorts. So it's actually, I mean, some of the stories that they tell on there, I really wanted to tell the story of Uncle Larry, like Psycho Uncle, pretty much. And that's a pretty popular YouTube channel as well. In fact, they're still doing content, and it's still like balls to the wall funny. So it would be a sequel, but it would be kind of a spin-off at the same time of Psycho Dad. Even though I already did a volume 2 on that one, I really would just like to do a volume 3, but not really call it Psycho Dad. If I was to do it again, I probably Zap Dramatic or the games that he's associated with, because now that we have the access to share screen, we could definitely watch more of the game, and people can actually get a sense of what the game looks like, how it sounds with the voices, and some of the options that you have to go through. And some of it's like you have to actually see it to believe it. A lot of times when you're doing a podcast like this and you don't have any video to show and you're relying just on audio, you have to really tell a story properly. And
Yeah.
even though I liked that one and I told that one to the best I could, they enjoyed that one. That was definitely fun to watch. It definitely more fun to watch than it is to listen to. If there's any more, I would probably say it would have to be in terms of a sequel. George Wood, I would definitely like to show more of the game shows that were going on, especially the ones that were
Mhm.
really out there, and some of his reviews. Because even though I explain the reviews, it's a lot better if you actually show, especially if there's like a certain game that somebody likes, and they're just like, "Whoa, what is this? What is this, man?" So that would be interesting to fun. And since we're not really, and since we have panelists now that are not as, and to put in the fans' words, we have certain panelists now that aren't necessarily that are more aesthetically pleasing to listen to than some other panelists we had in the past. So nowadays, it would probably be better to do a sequel to some of these old ones, but definitely want to focus on some new ones as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, since um, some of the sequels that you mentioned here, some deserved sequels, and some deserved more exposure. Like, this is an interesting one. This is not based on drama. This is based more on the quality. So, in other words, this would mean less about the trending topics if you would have some sequels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it was a little bit. I mean, hey, anything at that particular time that's trendy. I mean, I technically did a sequel on Etika because of his passing,
yeah,
but I think it would be more to go into more detail of how exactly it went down, how it happened, the events that were leading up to it. And that would be something that I have to really do deep dive research on and really find out, and that would be like a very somber one to do. But
hmm,
yeah, so definitely something along the lines of really just trying not to do some things that are trendy either. So, I mean, especially, I mean, Logan Paul, the low episode we did on Logan Paul, I mean, that happened like a couple of days before we went on, like a week before we went on the air to do it. So, like, oh, hey, let's just slip this in because it's like topical. So,
yeah. Because I remember you posting sometime that there will be certain topics that we will not be talking about. So it would be easier for you to identify who will watch you because you stay true to your content and who
yeah.
will just watch you just because they wanted your opinion on certain trending topics. Sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
And there's even certain people that we will never touch. I'm gonna try to make a list of that one of these days, so people are just
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, okay,
Yeah. As early as now, you can put a disclaimer what we will not be talking about.
yeah." Like anybody that did like a huge controversy. Like I know there's a certain person that went up and shot up an entire group of people, but his
It,
entire manifesto was put on YouTube,
oh,
or not on YouTube, but definitely was put online, and it was exposed to a lot of people.
yeah.
Yeah, so that one I don't want to really touch. Anything that's like really considered in the words of a lot of religious people, it would be considered evil people. We're not going to cover them.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yes.
probably more lighthearted, more funny people. Anybody that really did affect the internet and really, I mean, you can't avoid them. I mean, you definitely could talk
Yes.
about those, but yeah, just not anybody that would really go too far, too far.
Yeah, that'll really help. So, less toxic topics.
Okay.
Yeah, and then okay, that help a lot in identifying what would be the next one. Since okay, so any platforms that you have to promote? I already posted a link on the chat of your YouTube channel, which helps in getting more subscribers or watch your content and watch replays as well. So, any any upcoming live stream on your channel?
Well, tomorrow we're doing the part two of Doki Doki Literature Club.
Mm-hmm.
So that one is actually Jing was on that one. She did a live reading of one of the characters. I also have three other panelists that are women. All the panelists besides myself are women. And that's other thing that I like to put out there is like it went from being like an all male show to now being having a lot more diversity on it as well. So the ones that are on the show, usually I was like, oh, hey, let's all do something together. So we did part one of Doki Doki last week. We're going to do it this week. Hopefully, we can try to end it by then because I want to get into other stuff. So definitely check it out. We usually are on, if for anybody that lives in the United States, or we try to do those on Friday nights, but anybody that it lives where Jing is or is in some place like Australia or Japan or anybody on the far east, it would be like early in the morning on like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. So that's when we usually do it. I mean, we're doing it tomorrow because I'm on here with Jing's show, so I decided to move it back. But it would usually be on a Friday night slash Saturday morning, depending on where you lived. Um, with that being said, we're definitely going to be doing my birthday's coming up, so I'm probably going to be doing a special stream for that when it comes to Tuesday because that's my birthday. So I might do something special for that where it's just me talking. So I won't spoil anything with that. But um, after that, we're going to try to see where we can go with other topics. I mean, with COVID right now, everything's crazy, so we don't know how everything's going right now with everybody. So we're kind of like trying to spitball, see what we can do at this point to try to get anything down. So yeah, that's generally what I got on the table right now, and it's really we taking it by a week to week basis.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, since normally the Doki Doki episodes would take around 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah, because
Okay.
a normal show. I mean, lesson learned: never go more than 2 hours on a podcast. You need to, for me personally, you go any more, people start getting tired. I learned
Yeah,
that pretty quickly.
yeah, because that would help. Um, so other viewers here, yeah, I'm waiting for the questions to come in since one of our active commenters, Miss Michi, she's from Australia. She's watching this. She's pretty familiar with most of the topics that you've mentioned, and she wanted to ask some questions. Other viewers, you're free to ask questions as well about podcasting, about equipment used, about topics that are okay um, to get featured on. Yeah, because it helped that um, live streaming became easier now that we're still waiting for this lockdown period to end. So okay, I'm searching for the other question here. Wait. Anyway, so let's see. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, this is a nice one. Mr. Dini, where is that sexy voice coming from? American, I reckon.
Well, it is American. It's actually, yeah. I have to try to hide my my northeastern accent very well because a
Oh,
little bit it pops out every now and then. So, sometimes I got to be really careful. But if I just relax it and I just let it go, a lot of times it ends up sounding like this. And this is how I normally talk when I'm trying to do things. But yeah, I live in the southeast of the country, so
mm,
not a lot of people would respond to this really well. It's kind of an intimidating type of voice. I mean, it's more appropriate when like you're in like the New York or the Philadelphia or the Boston area. If you're in the Northeast, but when I'm in the southeast, you got to try to really talk to people. You have to make people as comfortable as possible. So you don't want to have something too intimidating. Um, and usually when it comes to podcasts like these, I mean, this voice just really chimes through. And a lot of times I've become so accustomed to speaking like this, so it just ended up becoming a part of my normal routine of how I speak. It's the same thing. My mother had a very heavy northeastern accent, so she had a northeastern American accent. So she knew as she was working through the hospital scene, she couldn't have something in the southeast because that was very intimidating to people. So I mean, it depends on what type of the area you're living in. If I was in, say, New York, I could probably get away with being my normal voice, but um,
mm,
nowadays it's a lot easier to just kind of keep this on. And plus I have friends that like it, so not to be vain or anything, but it's just how I sound, so I just use it to the best of my ability. And it often helps when you're doing a podcast,
oh
or
yeah, it really helps since it will leave other people guessing where are you located, and um, then sometimes I would go emulate a Christian's accent. I can't copy it for the life
yeah.
of me. I can't
Well,
copy Tommy Sauce.
yeah, this is Christian. He sounds more like, or he got more of a this is definitely Virginian. So it definitely
Mm,
comes from like the Washington D.C., Virginia area. So he's got that more of a southern type accent, but at the same time, also you got to go really high pitched with it because that's how it normally sounds. And a lot of times, like it's kind of difficult when you're in a house with a lot of people, so you have to try to condense it at the same time. So I mean, I could go pretty high with it, and I could go pretty loud with it also. But at the same time, you have to make sure that I'm not getting like phone calls or texts from my neighbors saying like, "What's all that screaming?" So
mm,
I have to be considerate of that. So I try to do it in like the most room heavy as possible. But when
yeah,
if you put me in a sound booth, I can go crazy with it.
that'd be great. And yeah, finally, I found the other question. With your show, which would you choose, podcasting or live streaming?
Well, I mean, they're one and the same in a lot of ways. I mean,
Mm,
look, my favorite YouTuber, Sam Cedar, has a political YouTube channel called Majority Report. And not
mm,
only does he podcast the first hour of his show, where he has a guest, they do a philosophical, intellectual conversation, and then the fun half, which is the other hour, is available on YouTube. And it's just a live stream. It's just a live stream podcast. It's mostly for patrons who anyone that's a Patreon of his can get like access to this, and it's just a lot of fun. So depending on how you do your podcast, you can live stream it with video, you can live stream it with audio. Live streaming is more fun to do. Recording, I mean, if you were going to ask the question, is it better to do it live or recording? It's better live. So in
yeah,
answer to your question, live streaming is more fun to do.
yeah, because live streaming involves visuals as well, and
Yes.
podcasting. Well, yeah, cheap plug. We the other seasons of Legends is also on Apple Podcasts. I'll
Yes.
be posting later on the description box, either that or in the comments. I would be posting that. So yeah, that's a nice question. Uh, yeah, I hope you're satisfied with the answer, since it really helps. You have these um, viewers interested in learning more about podcasting, because as early as 2016 there are already so many podcasts going on, and then even YouTube adjusted their platform just to accommodate live streamers now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, because they have to try to compete with Twitch. Twitch is like their number one enemy right now. Same with Facebook Gaming because they just took over
yeah,
Mixer. And also, just a heads up for people, Spotify just recently signed a $100 million contract with Joe Rogan. If
Joe
anybody,
Rogan.
yes, anybody who doesn't know who Joe Rogan is, he's probably the number one podcaster in America. Um, he's probably had some of the most proliferal guests on his show from like both sides of the political spectrum, people in the stand-up comedian world, his friends. But he signed a $100 million contract with Spotify, and that is becoming more of the YouTube of podcasting. I'm
Mm,
finding out they're trying to be the broadcast yourself or podcast yourself, I should say, of the internet. So I don't know how that's going to change, but right now they're giving a lot of money to specific individuals to do major podcasts on their network and only be exclusive to that brand. So you're starting to see now that these podcasters are now going to be finding ways to make millions and millions of dollars. So, I mean, only a select few are going to get there because this is how the hierarchy of capitalism works. Only a select few can get there. So, I mean, if you have a really good podcast and it becomes big, you might end up getting a call from Spotify saying, "Hey, I'd like to sign you for about 5 years to about $5 million, or however that much is in pesos." But
that's a
that's
lot.
gonna be something.
That's definitely a lot. Yeah. So yeah, this prompted another the same person to ask, are you guys familiar with the guys from Double Toasted, previously known as Spell.com? If so, are you guys going to do a piece on them? I think I remember suggesting it on the survey that you posted online before.
Yeah, double toasted was something that somebody requested. We never got around to it, but we could definitely take a look at it. That would definitely be something we can think about. Because that's the thing with some of the panelists. We're trying to think like, oh, which ones do we want to do? Which ones might sound interesting? And I'm trying to get some of the old panelists that started the show to come back to do the show, just to accommodate some of the ones they want to do. But yeah, that's something we could think about.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's why it took forever for the other question to come up. Anyway, so yeah, since I remember suggesting Double Toasted because they had used to have a website, and then I think they closed down the website or something based on what I researched before, and then had a different they had a YouTube account, and then they had a podcast, and then by the time they started podcasting, they would be posting the highlights on their channel, and I think the main thing that got some folks interested in Double Toasted is how um, they never moved to California. Other viewers have been suggesting for them to move to California, but they chose to stay in Austin, Texas, because that's the main purpose of live streaming. You can live stream from your own home, have someone to talk to across the globe, or at least across the country in his case, and then have some of these live streamed versions, unedited versions of the interview aired on SoundCloud. Um, Although I don't remember them live streaming on YouTube yet, but yeah, they're really interesting. That's an interesting argument to online freelancing. That's the main purpose. You don't need to move elsewhere. You can work at the comfort of your own home, like you. You're working at home, and it's interesting that you managed to really get your channel subscription base boosted.
Yeah, with this current algorithm, I'm really trying to see like I gotta really try to see like how their algorithm fits now because it's always changing. You always want to try to see. You always want to try to see like especially if it comes to any major site. Any major site's got their own algorithm, so it takes a lot of digging into to see what their algorithm is like and really try to cater to that because the times are changing and people just want like different content of that. So just getting ahead of it really helps for me at least.
Yeah, and thank you very much. Hopefully, Miss Michi, you are satisfied with that answer. Since next time we'd be posting, maybe next time we'd be posting questions. Just type out DOTCOM instead of trying to post a link. Not sure what went wrong with that. comment anyway. So it's getting a lot of hype. Yeah, Joe Rogan is one of the podcasters people watch out for, and if he moved out of YouTube and moved to Spotify, imagine the number of subscribers that be he will be taking with him. That's the kind of influence not many people have, but it took years for him to build that subscriber base. Okay, so yeah, and I appreciate the comments coming in here. So anyway, got anything to plug apart from your lives? You already mentioned Doki Doki, and then you mentioned about the channel. Um, when do you plan to continue with the other season, or are you planning to launch an all new season of Legends of the Internet?
Well, considering like how the past, like when I started to when the New Year's started, it definitely had to stop because of like specific circumstances in my personal life. So now that everything is gone like into a different path now, I can kind of lean into this a little bit more. Not totally yet, but if I was going to, it would be a brand new season through and through, and we'd have to think about who we want to. I mean, we've been talking about this like off on Skype previously with some of the panelists, but it would definitely be people that we can just think off the top of our heads, like, oh, okay, who's something that we can have fun with, have a laugh for, what would be a good story, how can we tell it? But this time, I want to try to get all of it done but before like the season launched, so we have everything ready to go, and all we just have to do is just pull it up and get be done with it and not have to necessarily just try to do it on a week's notice. So that would be some major differences. But if I already know the story, or if we're doing it based on the videos that we'll be watching and we're just like reacting to the videos on it, then that's going to be a fun and that would be different. So it would be a brand new season.
Yeah, that'd be great. Brand new season, and um, I have a feeling I'd be contributing to some episodes as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because oh, thank you, thank you, Miss Michi, for subscribing and clicking the notification bell, so you'd be alerted of other live episodes that we have and episodes in between. Because I've started reading some clips on Reddit as well, and occasionally I would post some promotional materials for the virtual assistant course that I'm promoting at the moment. Anyway, so okay, and as promised, just a little information about what I mentioned a while ago about the free ebook. Since we are close to the end of this live stream, time to share an ebook written by yours truly. Of course, you will get that if you can send me a screenshot as proof that you shared this very live stream on your respective social media accounts, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, um, maybe Pinterest. Let's see if they allow. Last time I checked, they allow YouTube links there as well. If you have Tumblr, that'd be great. I have Tumblr. And because sharing is caring. And send a screenshot or image to our Facebook page. Facebook page is provided on the description box. Writing Jing, you have already seen it at the ads as well. And you will receive a copy of the ebook in less than 24 hours upon receipt of your screenshots. Yeah, I already wrote one based on my experience as a researcher, head writer for some of the episodes of Joe Dini's Legends of the Internet. Don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe to our channel. So we have here, okay, everyone's questions already answered. And so, any final thoughts?
You did great.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot coming from you.
No, well, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, I already mentioned about the free ebook once you share this live stream, and then, of course, you can watch out for the next episode. Stay subscribed here on our channel because once you're subscribed, you'd get notified of our next episode here on the Writing Gymcast, featuring one of the top freelancers online, uh, Miss Leora Cornelio. and would be expecting you. So, any comments, feedback, suggestions, violent reactions, yeah, you're free to post them on the comments, and would be expecting you. Thank you and have a good day. How to be a virtual assistant without quitting your current job. Yes, you can still be a virtual assistant even if you still have a job. Next thing you need now is a buffer against the rainy days. And we mean the days before payday. If you still have a job, that is. Because paydays don't always coincide with the bill's deadlines. And the lockdown doesn't apply on the utility bills either. Bottom line is you need money. And the only currency you can trade in exchange of a quality virtual assistant course is time. Time! If Meralco, Maynilad, and your landlord has time to remind you of your utility bills, then you have time to learn new skills to help you earn income online. Just click the link at the description box to know more.